This episode is sponsored by the Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Over the past 4 years, I have had the opportunity to help over 30 women identify, accept, and take action in the parts of their lives where they feel stuck. My heart's desire is to do that with every woman I come in contact with, but the truth is that's not realistic. So instead, I created a prayer journal that goes through that same journey. The Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal is designed for you to dig deep and answer questions that will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. The Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal consists of 6 sections of journal prompts and areas for reflections for when you want to dig a little deeper and just take your thoughts to another level. Whether it takes you 6 weeks or 6 months to complete, I promise you will not regret it. Head on over to my website at www.feliciawallace.com and select the books tab to make your purchase. If you are ready to find your fears and slay them, go to www.feliciawallace.com, select books, and get your copy today. You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. I am here with Naketa Ren Thigpen from ThigPro Balance and Relationship Management Institute. Hello, Naketa, how are you?
Hello, Felicia. I am happy to be here with your Slay Nation.
Yes. And look, I told you I was going to sound that thing all the way out. I was like, between this DMV accent and sometimes this leftover Bell's palsy be like, the words just don't come out the way it's supposed to come out. So I was like, slow it down. Then you can get it out the way you want to. Thank you for joining us today. I love that Slay Nation, y'all. Listen, it's the fact that people keep coming up with yes, Slay Nation, Slayers. Yes, okay, come on. Thank you so much for deciding to come on the show and just joining us and having this conversation. I told you offline, like I am honored anytime and every time somebody wants to be here and wants to be able to share their journey. It's an honor to me. So thank you so much for wanting to come and talk about, your self-doubt journey and what you got going on. Because I really got to know like the Balance and Relationship Management Institute. I think we need to we're gonna get into that. But before we do, okay, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Yeah, well, I first want to honor you. It is a mutual feeling of respect to be on your platform. So thank you for creating this space.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I received that.
Thank you. All right. So for everyone who's newly introduced to me in this hour that have no idea who I am, I'm the #1 balance and relationship advisor in the world. I activate power couples and potent humans. Everything we do at the core is about building stronger families so they can leave multi-generational imprints from their wholeness. A lot of my work is in the personal development space. That's what our company is. And then we dig deep into the sexology and all the human behavior and all the things they need to do so they can literally live in that space of A&D and fully and not feel like they have to compartmentalize any part of themselves.
Okay. Listen, you said earlier, your voice was real sultry, but the way you said that was, I was like, okay, so what do we do first? Like,
I love you already. That's real.
Listen, I tell people all the time, you're going to get the same person every single time. This just be my energy, okay? But I love that. The #1 balance and relationship advisor. And so I want to know, like, why do you think it's so important? Like, how did you get to this place?
Yeah. So my background is a little layered. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and trauma specialist by full background of over 25 years as a clinician. And then about 11 years ago, I was fed up with just being mundane, right? Like when you're really good, and I'm sure you can speak to this yourself, Felicia, you're really, really good at many things and you're really great at some very specific things, but you're not always in love with the one thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that I was really good at being a clinician, helping these families survive so much grief and turmoil in so many different areas, especially as a sexual assault worker, and all the different ways that I was able to help people in the darkest hour of their life.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to help them thrive. I didn't want to just be
Mm-hmm.
in my clinical hat, which is really
Mm-hmm.
about helping you with the deeper roots of your dysfunction. Where is it coming from? Let's explore how it's coming up in your life. I wanted
Yeah.
to help you motivate, pick up, and go forward with momentum. And that's
Yeah.
where those tenets of coaching and consulting and strategy really came in, that
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do as a clinician within the
Yeah.
system that I
Yeah.
worked in. So I found myself being in the relationship with my work. Like, I don't know if any of y'all had these relationships where you were like, oh, he's so handsome. He good to me. But it's no spark.
Yeah.
Something
Something
ain't
missing.
landing.
Something
Something
missing.
missing.
The curl ain't quite right.
Right, right. The curl's not quite right. And the world is like, oh, your curls are popping, but
Yeah.
it's just something not
Mm-hmm.
right about it. And I felt limited, quite honestly, by being in the system that I
Mm.
was. And it's no disrespect to anyone else who's still, in the
Yeah.
field of clinical social work or psychology, of all of it. I love you. I need you. I refer to you
Right.
all the time. And I still maintain all those licenses because I paid too much for it,
Mm.
and blood, sweat, and tears. Okay.
Right.
But I don't operate that way because I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
be limited to just that field and the expectations. I
Yeah.
wanted to be in love,
Yeah.
the juicy dopamine of being in love and continuing that. And when I moved into entrepreneurship, I found my space. I found
Yeah.
my person, if you will, through the work that I was able to do, impacting others at the core. So they didn't have to just deal with the mundane because they were good
Mm-hmm.
at it, but they could
Mm-hmm.
be great.
Yeah. I love that. And I felt that in my soul because you're right. When you are doing, there are particular things that you are great at, that
Yeah.
you love doing, that you would do for free, that you would
Yes.
do over and over again, that even when nobody's asking you, that thing comes up. And when you're in a space that, like I always say that, my previous job was in healthcare and it was in
Mm-hmm.
leadership, and I loved it. I enjoyed what it is that I did, but I always knew something was missing. I knew
Yeah.
it didn't fulfill me the way it needed to, right? And
Yeah.
then again, once I didn't even know I wanted to do entrepreneurship, but once I transitioned into it, I was like, this is it. Like, how did I not
Mm-hmm.
know this? Like, but some of it is just the natural kind of like the way we're conditioned, right? That you
Come
have
on.
to go to work and you have to do it this way and you got to see yourself through. And I love being able to see like my generation of 80s and 90s babies of really transitioning into like that, and right, that
Yes.
you that
Yes.
what you're saying you want people to have is that, and like you
Yes.
can do both. You don't have to
Yes.
just do one thing. You don't, and it fluctuates because at different times and different seasons you may have to go back to your traditional 9 to 5, or you may
Yes.
have to go back to what you know how to do, specifically in order to do the thing that you want to do purposefully. That's,
Ooh.
and I think that that's the difference, that like when we talk about some people like, oh, I have a passion for this, is when you are in purpose, it
Mm-hmm.
hits your soul different. That is, it is a,
Yes.
I look, I got goosebumps every when I just thinking about it. Like when I started this, I knew that, like I was like, okay, Lord, like you want me to do this, and I didn't know that I was like, no, this is a part of what it is. That the connections that I have talking
Yeah.
to other women who look like me, who have the same but maybe different stories that I
Yeah.
have, right? Who are able to like, it's like this energy that's just like we both out here just loving what we do. Like you
Yes.
can't get no better than that, because when you at a place where everybody's just like, ugh, not another day. And do we like, how long, what time is it over? Whereas now I'd be like, oh, I got to get off. Like I have to,
Yes.
right? Like, not that
Forcing
I want, you're
yourself.
forcing yourself to say, I need to take a break. Let me go eat. Let me go use the bathroom, you know?
Right.
So no, I definitely understand exactly where you are coming from. And I'm sure our listeners definitely can feel that as well. And my hope always is that, which is a part of what Slaying Self-Doubt is about, is that you can get to that place, because
Yeah.
what we're about to talk about is the whole purpose of this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the thing that comes up that stops us from stepping out on faith and stepping out to see, like, do I
Yes.
have to do this? Like, how can I get the and? So my question to you is, how has self-doubt showed up in your journey?
Oh, goodness. How much time we got? So listen, I feel like self-doubt, not just for myself, but for other people as well, but I will totally be first partaker and talk all about my business.
Mhm.
It showed up for me and still does every time I'm doing something new that's really uncomfortable. So
Yes.
I would love to just say that it was a just way back when, 11
Mhm.
years ago, when my husband and I decided to start this company. That was the last time that I doubted myself when I was transitioning, right? But
Mhm.
that would be a lie.
Yeah.
When we started the first version of our business, it was a staffing agency with a professional development division, an arm to it.
Mhm.
And when I transitioned out of that, realizing staffing is not your thing. Great idea, Naketa, for somebody else.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
you need to really leverage the skills that you already had with being empathetic and compassionate and a good listener, and having those skills to really help people move from their breakdown into their breakthrough. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. You can maneuver away from the staffing. But I was anchored by, you put all this daggone money in it, you got all this workers'
Mhm.
comp insurance, right? Like all the
Mhm. Right.
logistics that go in. And it, for those of you who are listening that are consider yourself high achieving and ambitious, you know how hard it is to convince yourself to quit something
Mm.
that you told yourself this was the thing.
Yep.
Oh, yes, this is the thing. You hyped yourself up and you had good reason. Maybe you had good support. Maybe it was specifically because you didn't have support and you wanted to show the haters, family included, that you could do this thing
Yep.
regardless of whatever they said to you, projecting from their own fear. And then when you realize, because your spirit moves you, you listening, your
Mhm.
clients are telling you, no, that's great, but I want more of this other thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, but I'll put all this money, time, and energy into promoting, branding, marketing, right? Like all
Yep,
the
yep.
things. Will I look like I don't know what I'm doing? Will I look
Mhm.
like I'm not
Mhm.
committed? Will I look inconsistent if I do this other thing that I really feel even more powerful about?
Right.
And when I gave myself permission to excavate, realizing there's a lot of, or at least it was, a lot of what I call calcified chaos that was covering my purpose. My
Mm.
purpose, I believe, for all of us, it's already in you. You don't have to
Mhm.
find it, but you do have to dig through the mess
Yep.
to get to it, because we have the mess of other people's expectations, the mess of, whatever your story was, the traumas you had, maybe
Mhm.
bullying you experienced, maybe your current or ex-lover told you you never would. All that stuff, as much as we love to be big amazing women and say that don't bother me, yes it does, because we
Mhm.
are human. Now you
Mhm.
may have perfected your way of keeping a lot of it from you, but there are things that filter in through that Teflon
Yeah,
that we've
yeah.
created for ourselves. And once I gave myself permission to say, okay, I am amazing and dope and all that, but I am not impervious to doubt. I am
Yep.
not impervious to being hurt. I am not impervious by, a certain someone's opinion. Random people are random people.
Yep.
Keep them in the position in which they play, right?
Mhm.
If they didn't
Mhm.
earn any way into your space. But there are people in your space where their opinion matters. And sometimes what they say rocks you and almost jolts you into self doubt. That has
Yeah.
happened to me more times than I can count, Felicia. That's
Hmm.
why I said, how much time you got?
Right, right, right.
I think the last time that I experienced, major shifting self doubt was in 2021. 2021 was a huge year for me. It was another, you better come on deeper. I already came to Jesus. It was come on deeper into the fold. My body betrayed me in a big way. I
Mm.
already have a rare autoimmune and other health things. But 2021 decided to have an alien in my body. I had a big
Mm.
tumor and it was it was a whole thing. It started creating other little baby tumors and all kinds of things, surgeries, reconstructive, you name it.
Mm.
And I was humbled. Now, my husband and I have been together, friends since 13, together since 17, married since 22. We grandparents now. We've been
Yeah.
in this thing a long time. But there was still something beautiful about the mystery that we were able to keep in our lives.
Mm.
He had to do a lot of stuff for me, but there were some things he didn't have to be exposed to until
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything for myself. I could
Mm.
barely hold a teacup, let alone wipe and clean and dress and
Mhm.
all of that. And not being in my 80s, that was humbling,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we kind of anticipate, all right, when I'm over 80, and if I
Right.
need a little
Right.
assistance in that direction, it is what it is. But when you're not at that, and you still want to be seen as sexy and desirable, and you also want your own agency, and you lose that because of things that are going on with your body, praise God, he was there by my side the whole time to help
Yeah.
me and to be here. But it was also a very humbling experience for me, especially as an ambitious doer that I
Mm-hmm.
am. I'm always going, 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 getting it done. And God was like, sit your butt right down, and the only doing you want to do is the physical therapy to keep some of your muscles,
Yeah.
which was literally walking, no exaggerating, walking in a figure eight around my couch
Mm.
for 8 months. Do you hear me?
Mm.
That was my outside. So when people were like, oh, how do you like, the new loft? How do you like the state you're in? Because we moved. And, I'm like, well, I haven't seen anything but the windows. And
Yeah.
that's about as much as I've seen and experienced. And the doubt that creeped up for me with my business still running and doing great, praise God, it wasn't the same because I wasn't actively in it. And I
Yeah.
kept thinking, well, what does it look like when I come back to work? What
Mm.
does it look like now that I see that some of those things I was doing, some of the things that are still being done to generate money while I'm off the grid are actually not things that are in alignment with what I
Mm.
want to continue to do. But
Mm.
how dare you shift again?
Right.
And the reminder that I received was, which I believe is a download from God, was we evolve continuously and we arrive to these different points. So the one point of I'm ready to be an entrepreneur and open up a staffing and professional development agency, evolving to another point. Let's get out of the staffing. Let's do growth and development, evolving and arriving to another point of no, it's not just growth and development holistically, it's personal development for you,
Mm-hmm.
mama. And evolving and arriving again and being like, you got to go even deeper because you are amplifying intimacy
Yeah.
across the board. And just being able to give myself permission to do that excavation through that calcified chaos of turmoil and
Mm-hmm.
trauma and things that I thought I healed from. I thought all the therapy, the mentoring, the coaching, the spiritual counseling, all the things that, all
Yeah.
the degrees, all the certifications, all the things that I've done, you thought it was enough. But my reminder is that you are always evolving, arriving, and expanding.
Mm.
And I had to receive that first as the first
Yeah.
partaker of that. And there's no shame in shifting. There's no
Yeah.
shame in saying, you know what, I did that. I did that. It was amazing. And then I'm done with that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've expanded into another evolution and I will arrive again and
Yeah.
again and again. God willing, with breath in my body, with every moment that I have, I will see that there's further for me to go no matter how much I know. And I will say, Felicia, I teach and I tell people all the time, I already know is the most dangerous, destructive statement you can say.
Mm-hmm.
I already know. Oh, I already know that. Well, why is it coming back into your space again?
Yeah.
It's coming up for a reason.
Yeah.
You already know, but are you practicing? Are you
Right.
applying? Are
Hmm.
you gifting it to the people who it matters most around your circle? Like, why is it coming up? It's a reason that it's coming back into your ecosystem
Yeah.
if you already know. And for me, nerd brain, all the certifications, all the degrees, more than most people have in underwear, like all of it, I needed to back up and say, you do know a lot, and that lot is nothing compared to what you have left to learn.
Yeah.
You have so much further to go. And that keeps me humble. That keeps me paying for other coaches and advisors. That
Mm-hmm.
keeps me at the table knowing that if I'm the smartest person in the room, then that's my ego being served. My
Yep.
spirit is
Listen.
not. And I
Hmm.
need my spirit to be nurtured
Hmm.
all day, every day, not my ego. So,
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your story and just being very open, honest, and transparent. Like that's the reason why I say like you never know. Like
yeah,
everybody's story is different, right? But one of
yeah.
the things that I loved about what you said was two things. The first thing is that we talked about this a little bit before about the Lord will sit you down, right? And when he
Mm-hmm.
sits you down, it is for a reason. We may not
Yeah,
like how he sits us down, and I've been sat
come
down
on.
quite a few times, and in the same way, where like you can't go nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
like you couldn't have just given me something a little less dramatic than this. You really needed my attention, but the
Right.
answer is yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
He needed our attention because what we are being called to do nobody else can do but us.
Come
And so,
on.
in order for him to be able to give us all of the things, he needs our undivided attention. And unfortunately, for us, the ones that keep moving and don't like to be still, you
Mm-hmm.
know, he be like, "Oh, okay, then we're gonna sit you down
Right.
right here. I'm gonna give me a little bit of time. You ain't got nowhere to go. You good, right?" Because he already has a plan for us. He know what our future looks like. So this, where
Yes.
it seems like I'm being sat down, I got so much to do. He's like, "Daughter, you don't even know the end. This is not it. I have more for you to do later on, but I have to
Mm.
give you this now in this way to show you what you already have, but
Yes.
also to show you what you don't need anymore." And what you said was, the next thing was about the shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is so interesting how afraid we are of shifts when they have to do with like personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let a promotion come up. You gonna do what you need to do to go get yourself some extra money. If you want to get another job, we out here trying to figure it out but when we have to change and we
Right.
have to shift, it's because we're comfortable with the way things have been. And shift brings, uncomfortability. It brings risk. Actually, yesterday, and I actually have it written down, and I know I'm about to go and Google it, and I really don't want to, but I think I'm about to. My therapist was saying that we choose self abandonment versus self authenticity. And I was just like, okay, girl, you just gonna go ahead and just lay a word on
Mm-hmm.
me like that. And so she says, it is the safety in self abandonment because there's no risk, right?
Yeah.
And so when we just give up, right, and we just
Mm-hmm.
be like, okay, well, it is what it is. This is just happening like this. That is us abandoning what could be, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when God gives you a place to shift, that's where the authenticity comes up, because like you
Yes.
said, you're evolving, you're changing. I'm not the same person I was when I was 12. I ain't the
Right.
same person I was when I was 25. I'm not the same person at 41. And I hope not to be the same person at 51, because
Right.
everything grows. If you're not growing, you're dying. So why are we afraid of growing in a different way? And it's because of the risk that we may lose something we had. We may lose some people. We
Yes.
may use some things. We're thinking we're losing the identity that the world sees. But if
Mm-hmm.
you are really living in purpose, he should be the only person that matters. God should be
Exactly.
the only person that we should be like, so is this the way you want me to go? And it sounds good until you actually have to do it. And
Come
I'm
on.
listen, I'm speaking from experience. Okay. We're like, we won't have to do this time. Can we just wait a little bit? Maybe next
The
time.
bargaining.
Right. We bargaining with him. But I love the fact that, when we have those moments, to be able to see it's what you do next with it, right?
Yeah.
What do you do in those moments when God is giving you that space to be different, when he's giving you that
Yeah.
space to show up? And then the last thing I'm going to say about it is that, and I say this often, like, if we don't move, the person we're connected to doesn't move. And we don't
Right.
know who those people are, right? So when every time that you said like, oh, I went from here to here, then I did a staffing agency, and then I
Mm-hmm.
did, growth and development. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds good because we're thinking here. We're thinking with our
Right.
brain. Oh, y'all can't see me. We're thinking with our brains, like what makes the most sense to us. And God is
Mm-hmm.
saying, I have people for you, and
Yes.
the people that I need you to bless, the people I need you to pour into, ain't gonna come to your staffing agency. They're not
That's
gonna
right.
come here. They're not gonna come to your, your growth and development thing. But if it has to look like this for somebody to look at it
Yes.
and be like, oh dang, I didn't even know I needed this. I didn't even know that was it. And so
Mm-hmm.
even in this moment, like, oh, I just know it's the goosebumps again. I swear the Holy Spirit just be like, that's why I say
Don't you love it?
I got time, because if he shifted, then we gonna go in that way. But my encouragement is that, like, if you're walking in purpose and you're doing this, you have to be open to the
Yes.
shift. You have to be open to the change, even if it doesn't make sense. Because in the end, when you see, like, oh, I see why I had to do that, you don't know the people who are going to be blessed by your change. And you have to be
Yes.
able to just be like, okay, God, as scary as it is, as
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable as it is, as risky as it is, are you going to lose some things? Absolutely. But that's what's supposed to shoot. I'm looking at this new plant I bought. And plants lose leaves all the time. But at the same
Yes.
time as they losing, it's other ones sprouting up. You may not see them yet, but you be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like look at that little bud down there. It's growing. And then I'm like, as a new plant mom, I be like, oh, I'm not killing it, right?
Right.
It is growing, but you can't see it yet. You can't see it
Mm-hmm.
until it comes into a whole leaf. Yeah, I was trying to think like bloom. That's the word I was thinking of.
I actually love your analogy of the plant. I'm a new plant mom too. I hear you, girl, on that one. Like I'm just trying to keep you alive. I'm trying to keep you alive.
Just
That's
one
how we
at a
be with the
time, one
babies
at a
too. I'm just
time.
trying to keep you alive. I'm trying to keep you alive. That's my job.
Right.
But I will say, like my sister in love is incredible with plants. I swear she could create a whole forest if she wants to. She has such an amazing green thumb that I know she got from her mom. She reminded me when she gifted me this beautiful aloe plant and an orchid. Not the orchid. She didn't give me the orchid. She gave me the lily. And the lily, she said, listen, one only needs a little bit of your attention. That's the aloe plant. Just come and you water it, talk to it, make sure you turn it so it's getting all angles of the sun.
Mm-hmm,
Because we live in a
mm-hmm.
loft, so it's only but so many places you can put these plants. And for your lily, which needs a little bit more, she was like, you're going to see when it's thirsty, it will tell on itself. The leaves will start to drop. Where my aloe
Mm-hmm.
don't tell me nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It just be standing there, and it's very, it's a cactus plant, so it's very
Yeah.
foolproof. It can just deal with so much. Very similar to us as women.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily see when it's thirsty. It won't tell on itself the
Mm-hmm.
same way that the lily will. Both are beautiful plants in its own right. But the lily, actually, with these wonderful blossoms that it will have and all that, it actually has to be pruned. So yes, there are some leaves that will drop off of it on its own when it's ready, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of things it won't do for itself. It needs
Yeah.
more love and care, and you have to. And I was like, oh, I gotta cut it. Like I feel like I'm hurting it, right? You get attached to the plants when you're trying to keep them alive. And she
Uh-huh.
said, no, you have to prune it. You have to trim it back. That it's not hurting, it's helping.
Yeah.
As uncomfortable it is for you and for it on some levels, because there's some not etymologists, but whatever the plant people are, I can't think of their official, the study of plants, I can't think of what
Yeah.
that's called yet. But some will say, like, plants can feel,
Yeah.
they can feel when they're being, given everything that it needs. So I
Mm-hmm.
was worried, like, oh, am I hurting it? And she was like, the benefit of you doing that is so much more powerful than you
Mm.
worried about this little prick of pain.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
do that with ourselves, to your
Mm-hmm.
point. We'll be so worried about, oh, my image. Oh, well, what will they think? Because,
Yeah.
last year we was talking about this year I'm all about that. What are they going to think? And that's that little hesitation to prune back. However, to your point, Felicia, the growth in the way that it needs to happen and the way that it could happen isn't going to happen if we don't do those uncomfortable things
Yeah.
that have more benefit than it does consequence.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you can't see the growth, and the growth may not be necessarily in you. In this journey of mine, I didn't see the impact that I had. I didn't see or
Yeah.
understand how I was really like, I was just like, I'm just showing up. Like, I'm just talking. Like, for me, it felt like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm talking the same way I would talk to anybody. It's no
Mm-hmm.
different. But for the people who are hearing it, who needed it, who was like, this is the word I needed, this is the encouragement I needed, you may not see the growth. That
Yeah,
it may not be, and that's what I'm saying, that little bud comes up. It
that's
starts
right.
at the root, and then you be like, what is that down there? And then
Yeah.
you see it. So no, that was and I was gonna say this last thing about plant show, because this is the plant that I have is like that. I can't remember the name, but it's like the Swiss cheese plant.
Oh,
And so
yes.
so pretty, right? But my
Mm-hmm.
husband the other day was like, I think you need to put it, like, now he paying attention. You need to put it in another pot. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think it's fine. He was like, I can tell by looking at it, it's going to grow bigger, and that's not enough room.
Come on.
And I
All
was
right,
like,
husband.
I right. And I said, oh, that's a word. Okay, then. And so but as a time, I'm like, maybe not yet. Like, because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, will I see it grow? How will I
Right.
know? But what if you don't have a room?
Right.
What if it doesn't even
Right.
have the room to grow? But I'm over here keeping it where it is because I'm waiting to see something, right? And so then I'm
Girl.
over here. The next thing I know, so today I looked again. I said, you know what? I think he's right. I'm gonna have to get a bigger pot and see what happens. And if it grows bigger, then I'll be like, oh, boo, you was right. but we don't know. But that's that uncomfortability, because now I got to start over. Now I got to get new soil. Now I got to take it outside and rinse it off and do it. And it's going to be dirty and messy. And I just cleaned up this spot right here. Right. But we don't think about it like, but in order for you to get bigger, you, you got to get dirty.
Girl.
Listen, I'm telling you,
Woo!
oh.
Honey, talk about church. I'm so grateful that you said that. We were talking in the green room, which I know the listeners don't have access to, but you were talking about the movement of what you're doing, right? And I relate to that on so many levels. And what you just said about the more room is exactly why I started talking about being intentionally selfish. That's my movement, is having more humans. You could be male or female, but if you can be more intentionally selfish, you now have that spaciousness you need for growth. Because we like this, we're busy, we're doing, we're going, we're running. And when you're constantly doing that, that is equal to the metaphor of being in the same space where your roots are getting entangled because they just growing and growing and growing. But you got to slow down. You have to give yourself permission to slow down, and even to know to step back and be like, wait a minute, something ain't right. I feel like this plant might need, to your husband's point, I think is missing a little something. And it's not necessarily the pruning and more water. It's something else that's under the surface that most people won't see. But he was slowed down enough. He was removed enough from the doing of taking care of the plant that he could see it. And for me, the redefined version of selfish is that personal, intimate gift to create your joy. That gift is your spaciousness. You need that in order for you to say, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you was talking to me? Because I don't need you to shut me down, God. I need to be able to hear you, but I can't hear you when I'm booked and busy. I hear you when I'm productive and I have spaciousness. But when I'm booked and busy because I'm living in scarcity, because I think I have to control, that I have to do, that I'm the only one that can. And God then reminds me, unfortunately, because I'm a rebellious child a little too often, I've been trying to get a word to you. But you haven't been listening. You've been so focused, which focus can be good until it becomes fixation, right? The extremes. Water is good for you until you drink so much that you drown yourself. You have to be mindful that even a good thing can be dangerous if it's not God-led. So thank you for saying that. That was awesome.
Every time, y'all, I tell you, every single time it be intentional. Like the Lord be knowing who is supposed to be here and when they supposed to show up. Okay. So we've talked about shifting. We talked about the, just all the changes that have happened in your life and how you've kind of got into this space. So what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
Okay. So I know, right? I'm like, well, like which one will take less time so she can get back to her family?
It's all good. It's all good.
Right? I've learned a lot. I will say I was a fairly confident human before I became an entrepreneur. I didn't even know, and I wasn't, I think the immature version of me might have looked a little cocky, to be quite frank. But I was fairly confident in what I knew, and not just from a work perspective, but I'm silly, I'm awkward, I talk out the side of my mouth, I'm very animated for no good reason. Like it's just naturally. And I know a lot of people can't handle that. And in my former entrepreneurial self, I wouldn't think twice about it. I'm like, oh, that's your problem. That I roll my eyes and make faces when I'm just, having conversation. Right. When I'm just being me. But when I became an entrepreneur and the spotlight was on me in a very different way, when you're in a system, if someone that you're connected to, that you're engaging with, doesn't like something about the way you're doing something or what you're doing, you can say, oh yeah, well, the system, that company, I'm trying not to oust anybody, but child, I know the company, they always, they make us do it this way. We have to do it this way. Or I'm like this because of the system, right? Like we get to kind of blame the system. And usually we're right. We're restricted by the systems that we work within. But when you become an entrepreneur and you're creating your own system, when someone doesn't like what you said, what you did, what you're doing, how you're doing it, or your product and your service, you take it personally. Right? Erica Badu with like, I'm an artist and I'm a little,
sensitive about my shit.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And you don't realize you're going to be like that, but you end up being it. And then you start to personalize everything to the point that you start to doubt, okay, well, maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought I would be. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now. Maybe I can't do this myself. Maybe I gotta, bring in partners. Or in my case, I told my husband, now God showed me the vision of this institute back in 2009. And I was excited and elated, all that came and told my husband and my kids, and we're all like, yes. Now it took me 2 years to get the strength up to be able to actually take the leap and become an entrepreneur in 2011. 2 years later, 2 years and a few months, actually. And when I did it, when I was ready, I said, okay, husband, you have to be the president of the company. And he said, well, why? Is it a vision? Like, I support you. We're doing it together. It was our money, let's be clear. So he's a shareholder equal,
right.
all that. But he was like, it's basically your vision, your company. And I said, no, I think they're not going to respect a woman being in the front. It has to be you. Like, I'll be the face, I'll do all the things I need to do. But in certain board meetings and certain pitch meetings, I need you to come to the table, because I don't think that they're going to respect me as a woman. And so that was my first entree into serious doubt. Now, that was, of course, at the beginning when we were still in the staffing mode. And unfortunately, I was right, because staffing is a very male dominated. There are a few women players, right? Very male dominated. But it's also a older white male dominated, and we just happen to be a Black couple. So even having him at the table, so to speak, didn't give the same energy that it would have as if he wasn't a Black male. And a lot of that made me get angry. It made me reach in and say, well, South Philly Naketa need to actually Kia. That's my growing up name. Kia need to come out, because these people playing games and they don't know who they're dealing with, right? Like, that survival, that fighter wanted to come up, but it wasn't in a polished way. It was in a reactive, coming out of trauma, coming from abandonment, coming from attachment issues way. And that wasn't the best way either, when I didn't see the gift of this doubt and these triggers that were coming up to show me where I still needed to do more work. And so I would work on some things. I would work on the anger, right? Like, I would work on the way I would handle a conflict out loud. Like, Kia can't show up when she got on stilettos and the pencil skirt and pearls, right? Like, that's not the time. It's not the place for it, Philly.
Not today.
Come on, Philadelphia, sit down. Come on, like, be kind, be kind. And then after I would do that, I'm like, okay, I can handle this. I can maneuver this as I'm shifting into other spaces. And I'm a metaphysician as well. And I'm a minister. And there's all these other places. And then I see the extremes of people who are practicing witchcraft and doing it. And I'm like, listen, that's not me either. So how do I say this without going back to South Philly Kia, because South Philly Kia could push you away in a second. I could do it with a glance, right? Because you realize that's a real weapon, not a pretend I'm just threatening you verbally weapon.
Right.
But I've grown from South Philly Kia, so I don't need to be her in this room. But the doubt that's rising up that makes you wonder, like, how am I going to help educate these people and show them, as a marketplace minister, show them the love of God without getting angry and pushing them into it. Because as much as I'm a Christian woman, I don't run a Christian business. God didn't tell me to only work with Christians. I'm working with whoever God calls me to work with. And when they see the love and they say, Naketa, how do you do? I say, but God, right? And that's okay that you're not ready to receive it. I'm not here to convince you of anything.
That's not my job.
I'm here to convey through my actions, through my showing up, and through my being. But that meant I had to do the work too. So I wasn't just in empathy and understanding their feelings and their suffering, but so I could be empathy in action, which for me is compassion. And it took a little understanding of what Naketa had to work on, including, all right, girl, you can't pull out the knife because somebody pissed you off. Right? You're not 15 no more. Like, you can't do that. And for us, our knife isn't necessarily a metal, it's our tongue. And as women, ooh, child,
slice you up.
Right? Slice you up in pieces and have you looking at, well, wait, I thought we was friends, right? Like, you trying to figure out how
good morning. Like, how did we get here?
Exactly. Because we was holding on to all the shade and all those moments before that day when you just said good morning. And we're like, no, we know that good morning was an entree into you about to think you going into that place again. And let me show you how you not. And I had to get better at being able to handle those difficult conversations and situations that would come with these 6, 7-figure deals and all these different opportunities, and still saying, I'm powerful enough and I am loved enough to not see this as my only opportunity. This person is not in the integrity that I want to work with.
Yeah.
This company doesn't have the values that we have. They are not in alignment. So I can say no and open up that opportunity for my real yes, the
Yeah.
yes that I want, and not be in scarcity. And honestly, Felicia, that took some real work. I missed my eldest. He's about to be 26 in by the time this comes out, he'll be 26 in a few shakes. I missed his high school graduation because I was living in scarcity. I said I had an opportunity to do a work thing, and it was already booked on my schedule, and they changed the graduation date because of a flood or something with the original building. I'm like, well, I'm already locked in. So your dad will be there, your godmom will be there in my stead for the maternal energy. And I thought that the plan, because ambitious women, we put a plan together in a minute. I'm like, well,
Yeah. Yep.
this works, because if it was a man, he can miss it in a heartbeat. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
questions when a man
Mm-hmm.
can't be at
Mm-hmm.
a important milestone. And I'm like, well, I got to go to work, because when you decide to do this next thing, when you decide to go into that college or to travel, he's an artist. When you want to do that, I want to make sure that we have the money and we're not impeding it. So I have to do that thing.
Yeah.
I really thought that if I didn't do it, because being in a space of scarcity as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
All the things that we've, intuited from other people, we've
Mm-hmm.
literally been
Mm-hmm.
directly told from
Mm-hmm.
other people. I was like, I got to do this thing to make sure that I can gift you your next
To do the next
opportunity.
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, in the moment, because my son is me, I got you, mom. I understand. It's not a problem. I'm glad my auntie can be there. It's good. And of course, made it back time for us to celebrate after,
Mm-hmm.
but missed the actual graduation. Couldn't be there for the actual graduation. It was years later. My granddaughter, who's now 4, she was already here when he finally said, that really hurt. That really hurt me that you couldn't be there. I know you made a plan. I know I said it was okay because I understood you had to work, but it wasn't the same. I wanted you there. I
Yeah.
needed my mom in the room. And dad was great. Of course, he ain't never going to, right?
Right.
Dad was great. Auntie was great, but you weren't there. And I had to be honest with him. I was living in a space of scarcity. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that if I didn't go to that thing, then what you needed next, I wouldn't be able to help your dad and I as a unit
Yeah.
supply for you because of the place that I was in. And that was
Yeah.
2015. That was the last major time that
Mm.
self-doubt, scarcity, limited thinking shifted me in the opposite direction of where God was calling me to.
Yeah. No, and that's so good because what you've been saying is that your your growth, that's what you've been doing on this journey is just like
Yeah.
growing from that. And it will come from moments like that, right? Like where you're thinking, oh, I can't do this because I have to do that. And a lot of times we don't realize that we're scarcity a lot of times when people think they think money, but
Yeah.
it's not all about that. It's
Right.
sometimes experiences, it's time, it's I can't spend time with you, watch this movie with you because I gotta get
Yeah.
on this call or I gotta
That's
sit
right.
here and answer these emails or whatever the case may be. And the one of the things I think that we forget sometimes in entrepreneurship is that we have the freedom of our time.
Yes. Come on.
We have we're not bound by someone else's rules and regulations and say you have to work from 9 to 5. And it's
That's
such a
right.
hard thing because in the beginning of this conversation I said we are conditioned to
Mm-hmm.
think that it has to look a certain type of way. And so if it don't look like that, even if there's nobody else around, right? I'm looking
Yes.
around in my empty room. Okay. I don't have coworkers. I don't have a
Right.
boss. I don't
Right.
have, if it
Mm-hmm.
don't look like I'm working with my air quotes,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, am I actually doing something? Am I
Right.
actually, and it took me a while too. Like I've only been in this space for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me now to be like, I mean, if all I do is a podcast, I worked.
Yes.
And I'm like, because don't nobody know the amount of energy it takes to show up at 100% to talk to a stranger.
Come on.
And act like you've known each other for years. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally, y'all, I've talked to over 100 women that I have met for the first time the day that we record. That is
Yes.
not like and I have to give you all of me, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise it'll be dry as I don't know what in this joint.
Right? Like, why my listenership
It
going
is.
down?
It
What's
would be
happening?
a dry conversation if I came in here like, "How are you?" Blah blah. No, but
Mm-hmm.
that's where the also in me, in like, you have to be confident in how you show up, no matter where it is, right? But
Yes.
we're looking at it like, okay, well, let me go do this, and now once I'm done with this, I have to go do this next thing. No, I need to go to Costco. That's what I have to do after this, right? Like,
That's
and
real.
it's okay. And guess what? Whatever I have to do later, I will find the time to do it. But if no, I need to go check on my son, like, it's so many different things that, like, everything is competing for our time, but we choose.
Yes.
What are you choosing?
Yes.
It's a choice.
Yes.
We have to choose what is really important at that moment. The rest, some stuff can wait. It will. It will absolutely. If your body is saying layeth downeth, okay. I need you to lay down, and I need you just to close your eyes. I need you just to rest.
Right.
Instead of, oh, I'm gonna push through, I'm gonna just drink a coffee, I'm gonna drink a soda, and let me just
Mm-hmm.
get this work done. You're not operating in your full self, because
That's
half of
right.
you is in that bed wishing that they was laying
Yes.
down. And so then you
Mm-hmm.
giving your mediocre self, child, I don't have time for that. I don't listen.
You're
And like
over
you,
it.
I'm over it. And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I've been sat down enough times that I've been like, Lord, I'm good. Okay. Just this fine. Okay. You want me insert some laying down myself? Okay. I will sit myself down so you don't have to touch me. Like, we don't have nothing. I don't want no parts of that. So before we go, I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about what it is that look, I'm trying to scroll back up on my thing because I want to make sure I say the words correctly.
I
I
got
want to
you.
know, what is it that ThigPro Balance and Relationship Management Institute offers? What do you do? what
Yeah.
what what is what is that all about?
Yeah, so we're a global personal development company, and thank you for asking. We have three major verticals. We work with our power couples, and just for clarification, power couple for us does not mean you have billions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
right? For us, it is, are you philanthropic? Are you influential in whatever industry you work in? And you might be
Mm-hmm.
retired, but are you influential in that industry of service that you're doing? And are you an advocate for disproportionately affected people?
Mm.
That is hugely important to me for so many reasons. And if you are able to see a show bill from this, you will see by the color of my skin one
Hmm.
of the reasons why that is important,
Yeah.
that I work with people who are standing with and not against anyone who looks like me in any way,
Mm-hmm.
shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So when we work with those power couples, they're already in good relationships, but there's a few foxholes, some gaps that they just want to close. We call them the love gaps, and they want to amplify. They're like, our relationship is good. We have good foundation. However, we don't want to just be good together. Like how we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about earlier with that relationship with work, where you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're really good, but we want to be in bliss. We want to be
Yeah.
great. We
Yeah.
want to amplify this intimacy. And yes, we are talking about sex, but we also, there's 12 other layers of intimacy, right? Sex is
Yeah.
just one of them. I not only want to help them with orgasms, which I do, and take them into a greater division with that.
Okay
Listen,
then.
that's important when you want your forever lover to really be your forever.
Yes.
But we also are doing creative intimacy and aesthetic intimacy and emotional intimacy and all communication intimacy, like
Mm-hmm.
all those other layers that really help to close those gaps and amplify them into the next area of their life. And typically they come and work with us anywhere from a straight forever lover VIP day to somewhere between 3 months and 12 months, depending on what they need and how we can help them in a very bespoke way. So nothing is cookie cutter. I
Okay.
have a private advisory where I work with women entrepreneurs, where we do virtually the same thing, but they want to work on it for themselves. They're
Mm.
like, I love him. Maybe I don't have a him yet, but I'm readying myself for the next level of opportunity,
Yeah.
personally and professionally. And there are just some small foxholes, some gaps that I want to close with myself so I can really level up, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how much success I've had.
Yeah.
And our third way is this intentionally selfish suite, which is my new baby. I am so proud of her. It is our personal development incubator for women entrepreneurs. And we are literally helping these women with their interpersonal and intrapersonal and relational skills to the point that you can't help but to be certified. So we're
Mm.
certifying them as selfish coaches, depending on which level they come in, because it's 3 levels of the incubator. And they're also doing a residency. So they have practice
Nice.
time. I liken it for anyone who's listening and has ever watched Grey's Anatomy. I liken it to the Grey's Anatomy for personal development without the soap opera drama, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
without that part of it. So I'm
But
really
that's the
excited
reason why
about
we
that.
we watch Grace though.
Exactly,
It's for the
it is.
drama.
It is. It is. It is.
I'm a day one fan, so yes.
Yes. I knew I liked you for a reason. Yeah, so that's the main things we're doing. We also have a corporate arm where we basically do a version of the same thing for corporate minus the sex
Mm-hmm.
conversation for HR reasons.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course.
Right. But we're amplifying intimacy for those bold leaders so they can actually retain their top talent. So everything we do is all about leaving those imprints, regardless of which door you come in for us.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that it's not just one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though the base of it is the same, but you're
Yeah.
using it to be able to help people in all different types of areas. And I think a lot of times when we do certain things, I was having a conversation with somebody, and as we talk about shifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was asking me like, it's like, who's your target audience or whatever have you? And I was just like, I hate that question. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like, well, what's wrong? I was like, because like society, previous entrepreneurs, all of that social media, everything will tell you, oh, you have to niche down. You have to niche to like a specific. And I was like, but for this specific thing, I was like, self-doubt shows up at 12.
Come on.
Self-doubt shows up at 75. Like, so
Yes.
I can't niche it down. It shows up at your job. It shows up in your house. It shows up at in your marriage, in your health, in your finances. I can't niche that down. It
Mm-hmm.
can't get I got nothing. Like I was like, and I
That
get
is the niche.
yeah, the niche is everywhere because it's at every
Right.
given time, at any different time, in any different part of your life. That is what God has called me to do. So I'm like, I can't answer that question because I can't get no smaller than
Yeah.
look, we slaying self-doubt. That's the end. The end.
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically for Black women. Okay, that's about as niche as you're gonna get from me, right? Like that. It has to be women who look like me. That is, and who wants to fulfill their God-given purpose. So then that's about it. Outside of the other stuff like
That's
demographics
a
and all that
niche.
stuff, I'm like, I can't give you it, it's not going to go
Mm-hmm.
any smaller because of what it is. It affects all of us
Yes.
at every facet of our lives. So I can help you wherever. Right. Like
Right.
it doesn't really matter where you
Right.
are. I know right now, no, I'm not doing like children. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the conversation piece of it all. But eventually, when God's ready for me to talk to young women, I've been there. I know what
Right.
it feels like to be 16 and doubt yourself and be
Come
worried
on.
about what other people. I know all of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you think about those things, like the fact that you're able to tackle all the areas, like me, I want you to work on me personal as the woman, as the entrepreneur, but
Yes.
also in my marriage, right? But then
Yes.
also when I'm in this corporate area too, I need you to get me together over here. So I love that you
Yeah.
are spreading the love.
Thank you. From the bedroom to the boardroom,
I
honey.
know that's
Yes.
right. In real life, okay.
In real life.
Naketa, this was so much fun. Okay. Like I always, like I said, I be talking to strangers, y'all, every day. Like just be like, I don't know. And so, but the Lord knows, He always knows who it is I need to be connected with.
Mm-hmm.
He knows where the conversation is supposed to go. And so I'm so grateful that you were able to join us today. Can
Thank
you
you.
please tell the Slayers how they can connect with you? Slay Nation, I don't know. We're going to figure it out. Either Slay Nation, Slayer Nation. I don't know. But
Oh,
just
I
let us
like
know how
both
we,
of
I
them.
know,
Ooh,
right? They're so
that's
catchy.
hard.
Uh-huh. But tell us how we can connect with you.
All right. I will say the best place to come is to our parent company website, which is ThigPro, THIGPRO.com. And as a gift for all of you listening, I encourage you, for the readers out there, to go to aselfishbook.com and get a complimentary copy of It Is Not a How-To Book, I Promise on My Life. It is my survival memoir and personal transformation story that I
Yes.
believe if you read it, and you got to get past the hard parts because I'm very transparent and very honest about a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Read to the end so you can see and receive your victory, because that's why
Mm.
I wrote it.
Yes, y'all. You already know all of that will be in the show notes. Naketa, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your transparency, your wisdom, all of it. I don't know about y'all, but I'm blessed. So,
Thank you, Felicia, so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.